Hi, it's Brad here from surf.com, and today I'm speaking to Stephanie from Mount Yoga down here in the Bay of Plenty in New Zealand. We're talking about yoga for surfers. So tell us a little bit about yoga and your yoga journey. How did you get started?
So I've been practicing yoga for about 15 years now, and I'm an ex-gym junkie and runner and stuff, and so I was doing long distance running and kept getting injuries and things, and someone said, oh, you should go try that hot yoga thing, and I was like, whatever, I can run 20 Ks and not hardly sweat, so what's yoga going to do for me? So I went in and did my first class in Auckland, and it kicked my ass, and I just about crawled out. Yeah, but there was something about it, and I went, you know what, that was something I want to go back and do again. And literally from day one, I was addicted. Great. And just kept practicing and practicing, yeah.
And which styles of yoga are your favorites?
So my initial journey started with Bikram, so that's the hot yoga. Yep. And I think the discipline of it and the routine of it really appealed to me in that time. And I think it does a lot for sports people who are like quite A-type personality and quite competitive and like that strict regime and discipline of a practice. Then Bikram really appeals to those kind of people because it's the same sequence each time. There's like no fluff about it. It's like get in, do the work, get out, right? It's very black and white. What I love about it as a teacher is that anyone can come into that room and we can put you in a Bikram class and accommodate any style of injury, any level of fitness, strength, flexibility, and you can get in and out of a Bikram class really safely. Yeah. So we do other styles of yoga, vinyasa, which is the up dog, down dog style of stuff, and that tends to be what you see pictures of on Instagram and that kind of thing. It's a bit more showy and, has the circus tricks and stuff like that. And so what I love about that is the creativity of that style of yoga. But unless you're already quite fit and flexible, it's not a beginner's style of yoga. So what I love about Bikram is you can come in and we can put you into that class and you can get your way through it without any yoga experience. You'll still be able to, kind of get through a class.
It's a really practical format, for someone who's not used to yoga and is a bit scared of chanting and all of the rest of it.
You can see the progress because it's the same sequence of postures. You get to see the progression through, you get to work through your injuries and things like that. And I think a lot of people come in initially perhaps for an injury or rehabilitation style of work, but then they end up staying because there's so much other stuff that comes through the practice, right? So although we're not openly chanting or doing OMs or doing any kind of what you might call spiritual stuff, I think for a lot of people their own spiritual journey comes through that practice. Yeah. And so part of it is the discipline of being in the room, the same sequence, and yet every day it's so different. And that it's facing yourself in the mirror for 90 minutes and facing what comes up in your practice. Yes. And whether you touch your toes or hold one of the postures actually is quite irrelevant.
It's a lot like surfing, I think, in that you are in this environment, you've got a specific goal, you probably get a similar kind of flow state if you're really present to something like surfing.
Yeah, and I think like if you compare it to surfing, there's that effort and also that ease, right? So you've got to work with the ocean. If you fight it, you're going to fall off your board, and if you fight your body in the pose, you fall out, right? Yeah. So there's effort to get in the pose, but then there needs to be an ease of it. Yeah. So the balance, your breath, your focus, if you look around the room, you fall off. If you're on your board and you're, not watching what the wave is doing or whatever, you're going to, lose your balance there. So that combination of those things, I think, makes it a really good practice for people who are surfing.
For me, yoga was a way of staying fit in the off season during the winter, because here in the Mount where we live, there's not much in terms of surf over the winter.
Yeah.
And even after a long layoff, there's been no waves, I go back and still flexible, and more flexible than before because I've been doing yoga. My hips especially feel good. So I think it's great cross-training. It definitely improves all aspects of surfing.
Before I moved here to the Mount, I used to live on the Gold Coast, and so we used to have heaps of surfers come in, or they would when there were no waves. When there were waves, the room would be half empty because they'd all be out, right? Yeah, same thing here. But they all said the same, it's improved their surfing. So physically and mentally, cardio fitness improves because your lung capacity is better, your focus is better, all that stuff. So the combination of that improves when you're out on the waves, right?
What are some of the other benefits of I suppose we could say hot yoga, which is my favorite, but of yoga in general?
If we're looking at it from a surfing perspective, just the ability, you've got to think, if you've been sitting at your desk all day, and we tend to be quite hunched over, or you've been driving for long periods of time, and then the end of the day comes and you grab your board and you jump out in the water, suddenly you're expecting your hamstrings to be open, the hips, your spine's going from a forward bend motion into a back bend as you're duck diving under your ocean waves and all that kind of stuff. So to maintain that kind of flexibility within the body, you want to be practicing yoga, whether it's Bikram, Vinyasa or Ashtanga, doesn't matter, but just to get that mobility. And I think to compensate for a lot of the action is repetitive, right? You only ever forward stroke to paddle out. You don't backstroke ever.
You're only doing that back bend when you're paddling.
Yeah. And then, so it's keeping everything in balance. Maintaining length of your limbs will help, length of stride, so that when you jump up, you can stand on your board and have that, quick reaction time.
Yeah.
Cardio fitness. So if you're not huffing and puffing, it's much easier to balance and find your focus, because your recovery is faster.
That's right.
And of course, just most people will say the mental well-being far exceeds whether you ever touch your toes or anything.
In terms of surfing performance, the areas that we use as surfers are our shoulders, paddling, and I think that's probably the most underrated part of all surf fitness training. We focus a lot on balance and stance, but you're going to spend most of your time paddling.
So if we're thinking about the Bikram series, all that stuff, getting your arms overhead and trying to have straight arms, you probably do it now with ease. You just go like that, right? If you looked around, all the beginners are like this. Some of them can't even get their hands together, right? So there's all that stuff where we're constantly getting you to bring your arms up and try and have you in a straight line, get your neck up. That's the other thing. Everyone's heads are down like that, right? I say to you, sides of the neck back, get the back of the head up, get your head in line with the spine. You hear me go over and over and over and over. It's getting people straight. So if you're like that on your board and then you got your head up because you're trying to look over the crest of the wave, it's no wonder people's, spine, the lower back and the back, this little bit in here, right? And so you hear me cue in class, stop flipping your head back, because people just go, and I'm like, this is heavy, and there's all those little bones. And same with surfing, it's that thing, duck dive under the ocean wave. You hear me in Cobra and I say duck dive, but you don't need to see the sun, you just see the crest, because it's just, You want
it just to slice.
Yeah, and then getting this open to counteract all of that.
And the series when we're lying down, I find
the spine series, all of that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
For your paddle power and paddle strength, it's
get
amazing.
that open, get the shoulders back, range. So instead of being like little they like T-Rex.
Yes. Long.
You got more reach, and then you can get the arm to go back behind you. You know what I mean? Like all of that kind of stuff.
And triangle, it's just amazing for everything.
Yeah.
I see. You wouldn't stand that wide apart in surfing, but it strengthens everything you need for surfing.
Yeah. So if you can stand in triangle for a minute, then standing on your board in that position will come with much more ease. The strength and stability around the knee, because you've created that through standing in stillness in the pose. So it's really good for creating stability there. And then learning how to even feel your feet, like the outside edge of your foot, the heel on the mat, Yeah. So then you're like, okay, I can feel it. Where's my balance? And then the ability to hold your body, like in triangle, you're on that 45-degree angle. So the ability to hold you there, that core strength, then is going to transfer to holding yourself like that on the board.
For sure.
You won't be quite so in a straight line, but you'll be crouched and maybe leaning forward or...
The result is, I think, that your overall sense of balance and confidence in tricky situations improves.
Yeah.
Because you've managed to master it in a controlled environment.
And I think also what I think comes is this ability to kind of see and observe your thoughts, and you're maybe less reactive, and you can kind of have that bit of space where you're observing your thoughts and kind of you don't need to rush into stuff so much, right? You've got that ability to step back and just not be so reactive. Because in the room, if your mind is going 100 miles an hour and you're reactive to everything that comes up, you're just constantly falling out. So you've got to find a way to observe your thoughts, find some stillness and prepare for the pose, and just then get into it without just rushing.
Totally. In terms of your experience teaching people, you know, I imagine a lot of people come in, they want to progress really fast. If someone says, I want to improve my surfing, how long would they need to dedicate, and how often would you recommend as a kind of basic level?
So ideally we would say 3 times a week.
Okay, 3 times a week.
Just like any gym workout or any kind of training, 3 times a week with the day spread out in between is the minimal, so that you keep improving. Because if you leave the gap too long, just, you know, like when you're building strength, you lose a little bit, then you build it back up and you lose a little bit. With Bikram yoga, you can actually do it every day, because we're not really breaking down the body quite to the degree that you are if you're doing some of the stronger styles of yoga, where you're really building a lot more strength. You know, if you're trying to get up into handstands, you're not going to practice that every day, because there's just so much strength required. So, you know, if you're going to the gym, you don't do the same muscle group every day. Whereas Bikram's much softer on the body, so it's kind of like a whole body system that works together, and it's about cleansing your body from the inside out. So it's not so much focused on like getting into more advanced postures and stuff like that. The focus is on everyday well-being. Cleanse all your organs, all the systems, and that sets you up for the day. Yeah.
What's the best time of day to do it?
My favourite time is the morning.
Okay.
Yeah, but when you practice in the morning, you're going to be much more stiff, and so people feel you're kind of like a bit like concrete in the morning, because we're not so hydrated, you haven't moved around, maybe not eaten, you know, if you're coming for a 6 a.m. class. So it feels really different in the body, but what I love is that your mind is then set for the day.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah. And if you're quite pious at 7 a.m. when you leave the studio and you've done your workout, everyone's dragging themselves to work with coffee, and you're like, I've already done Bikram, and you know, I feel quite good now. And you're kind of set for the day, and then the whole day is ahead of you, and it seems to maybe flow with a little more ease. But you know, if you're not a morning person, then I say come at night, because if you're not a morning person, you're going to hate it.
And some tips, why should people start doing yoga?
Well, I think the biggest, you know, whenever I say to people that I own a yoga studio, blah, 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 the first thing they say is, oh, I'm not flexible enough to do yoga. And it's so frustrating, because I'm like, if you were flexible, you wouldn't need to come and do yoga. So come with your inflexibility, with the, you know, injuries you have, whatever, because that's what we're here for, is to help you gain that. And part of it's just going to be courage, having the courage just to come in. You just got to suck it up and be in here and approach it. But at the same time, like I said, it's about you having your journey. There's nowhere you have to get. We don't yell at you. There's no, you know, expectation you have to do all the postures. It's just get in here and start moving. Just get in here and start moving. Take it easy. Just get moving. So some of the ranges of movement will be the opposite to what you've done maybe habitually for years or through sports. So it's just easing your body out, like you said, balancing the movement so your spine's moving again in 4 directions, you know, not just always going forward. And think, you know, as adults, when we walk in a pretty straight line forward. Little kids, when they run around, they zigzag around and they skip and they run in circles, so their legs are getting full rotation of movement, and we lose that as an adult, because someone said, you're growing, stop skipping down the aisle. You walk in a straight line. And so this means our hips, all we do is forward action, and there's so much hip work that's required, that hip rehabilitation work, because people don't move their legs in all axes. So you come in and we ask you to go into tree pose and put your knee out to the side. It's like, but we've got to do it and then cross it over the other way, you know. So it's any age, because some yoga is better than none.
I totally agree. So just give it a try.
And you start just baby steps.
And how can people connect with you? So first thing I wanted to mention, this is one of the first, or if not the first, hot yoga studio in New Zealand? So this is the first studio. It's been here since 2002. Wow.
So, and it's been a Bikram studio ever since. And
it's amazing. That's older than some of the people who come here.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. So I've been here 5 years, and as you can see, it's a massive big space. We've got lots of windows, lots of sunlight coming in, so it's a beautiful space to practice in. Heaps of space for you when you come in as a student, big change rooms, lots of car parking and all that kind of stuff. So just rock on up.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm sure that people will come and check it out. If you're in New Zealand, you should definitely stop by. If you're overseas, do a search.
Yeah, find a Bikram studio there, or any yoga studio. If the hot yoga doesn't appeal, find another studio. Yeah.